Welcome to The Recovering Perfectionist, where you'll learn all the hacks you need to get started and finished on your business or project. You'll connect with successful entrepreneurs who are in perfectionist rehab, unapologetically experimenting and balancing life, business, family, and me time. I'm your host and Chief Recovering Perfectionist, Claire Barton. Hi, Recovering Perfectionist. It's Claire Barton, your host, and I'm here with Julie Gibbons today, who is so many different things. I've literally just said, so how do you want me to introduce you? And we kind of ended up chatting for 10 minutes about all the different things. So Julie, as I know her, is in the space of branding and graphic design and presenting yourself in a way that's on message and on brand with what you do and who you are and what your business is all about and that sort of thing. But I'm going to hand over to Julie to tell us a little bit more about her in her own words, which will be much more articulate than my version. So welcome, Julie. Thanks for coming on the show.
No worries, Claire. It's a pleasure to be here. Okay, so I was just explained to Claire that I've got a long and complicated and very convoluted kind of history. I started off doing a PhD. Well, I didn't actually start off doing a PhD. I did other things before that even. I've got a PhD in fine arts, and then when I left uni, I came from a contemporary craft background, so I did jewellery and silversmithing, and then I started lecturing at uni in design generally. And so and then I started my Etsy shop in 2009, and the more I hung around in the Etsy space, the more I realised that there were so many women doing beautiful things that had absolutely no idea on how to present themselves, and I knew I could help them. So that's kind of the short version of how I ended up doing branding.
That's so interesting. So, like when I first came across you, I totally got the Canva stuff and the graphic design, and like I said, someone recently mentioned you came up in conversation somewhere and someone said, oh, she's a uni lecturer as well, and I had no idea. So I was really interested to know about that. And I've actually worked with quite a few people in the last few years who have been professional artists or super creative arts or craft makers and that sort of thing. And I didn't know that about you. So ironic that our paths have crossed. And you mentioned silversmithing, and what was the other thing?
Jewelry and silversmithing. So just contemporary craft in using metal, really.
Amazing. So that's what your Etsy store was about?
No. I started off doing the Etsy store because I had little baby kids. I had twin boys and a girl, so I was really busy at home. And jewelry and silversmithing, like it uses acid and fire. It's probably not real good to use with
not
with
great.
So I had a sewing machine with a sewing table. I pack everything away. So I started just sewing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were you sewing?
I still do sewing. I'm making clothing, clothing and accessories from vintage fabrics.
Oh, how cool. Oh, that's really cool. So Etsy, as you mentioned before, was kind of one of the, I guess, catalysts, or, your interaction was kind of the catalyst for the business as we know it today.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before that when you were going into there, and people obviously have their own Etsy shops and they have this beautiful work and that sort of thing, but they weren't presenting it in a way that was on brand or appealing to their audience and that sort of thing. So tell us about that process and why that kind of stuck out for you, and what happened to, change the direction of what you were doing then, or to add another direction to what you were doing then.
So many directions.
I know.
Oh, listen, it started off because I decided I did the Etsy store, and then, I admit myself that my store was not, even though I had all this design knowledge, I really didn't have much of an idea of how to present myself online and have anything kind of cohesive. But I started off writing about craft because it's a thing that I absolutely love. Anything to do with design is just something that I really love. So there was photography and illustration in there as well, and a lot of contemporary craft, and that was what I was writing a blog about that. And that was when I kept on looking through all these Etsy stores. It wasn't just because I was going shopping a lot. It was because I was actually searching for people to feature on my blog. And, the more I looked, the more I realised that, there was a lot of women out there who had obviously beautiful work. They were very skilled makers, but they, you know, the photographs were disgusting. Really, they were terrible. And you know, there was no their descriptions. There was nothing there in how they wrote about their work. There was nothing about on their about page, or else they'd write something really generic that say, "Oh, I've always wanted to make stuff ever since I was a kid," and you know, like and like everybody says that. So yeah, I thought I can help them. So yeah, I started doing it.
I love it. So that was kind of the beginning, but I take it that was a few years ago, and now you work with more than crafters and makers. So there's a wide variety of online business women.
Yeah, it's more these days. It's probably, I guess, creativity generally, but people, especially there's a lot of healers, the people that I'm working with, and I guess I'm still trying to figure out why that resonates with me, but it does. And so sometimes you just kind of just go with the flow, you know, in terms of what comes to you, and if it feels right, you just, you know, go with it. I've lost all my train of thought now.
I was saying that you now work with more than just creatives and artists, that there's a bit of variety. So
yeah, it is quite a variety of people, and what I'm doing with them too. And I really, because I understand from my personal experience of going through that process of looking good and sounding good, and you know, getting something cohesive out there and pointed in the right direction so that people know exactly what you're about and stuff. That's my personal experience, and so they're the sorts of people I'm targeting. People in startups, really, people who are at the beginning of their journey. They've kind of got a pretty good idea of what kind of thing that, you know, what kind of product or service they're selling, but in terms of how to you know, present that cohesively is where they're struggling, and they you know, yeah. So they've already got the idea of what they want to do, but they just need a bit of a hand to get them out there. So I can help them, you know, I help them with all sorts of things from, you know, with the Canva, because, you know, because they're in startup, they don't have a lot of funds. So I'm helping them, you know, learn about all the free tools or the really cheap tools that they can help, you know, get them moving at least, and move them on to the next level.
It's such an interesting thing, just to take a step back for a second, that you were saying, you know, when you're in startup, that you kind of have a bit of an idea about your direction and a bit of an idea about like your purpose and maybe what your services are going to look like, or your products and your why and all of that sort of thing. But it is such a big jump going from working out what that is for yourself to actually presenting it in a cohesive way for your audience. Like, we chatted recently to Melinda Kiddo about brand storytelling and that personal core message, and how to actually get that to come across in everything that you do. Because, you know, a lot of people have either come from a corporate background, and so we accidentally fall into this really professional, super corporate language that we use, or even our images and our logos and our, you know, everything. And it's so, and then you get on the phone with someone or onto, you know, a meeting with someone, and you think, oh, it's not what I was expecting, because, you know, their actual voice is very different. And I think it's the same, like you were saying, there's so many elements that and I know you've said before when we've chatted in outlines or things that I know about you, that it can be really tricky to kind of get your head around the fact that your brand and your voice and your tone and your style and your message isn't just your logo.
Yeah. You know I mean? Don't get me started on logos.
Yeah, I know, right? But I'm definitely guilty of it, where I thought, well, I can't have a business without a logo.
Yeah.
And a few of my very first clients were very successful people who still didn't have a logo, and they'd been in business for years.
Yeah.
Just knowing that, and not having someone go, well, I've got a successful business and I don't have a logo, and me going, yeah, right. But actually I knew the inner workings of their business, and I knew that they were actually doing really well, really kind of started to shift some things. And, you know, talking to people like Emma Weiss, who was on the show earlier, and, you know, learning from yourself. And, you know, there's like a lot of people who have some sort of niche in the branding world. And I literally thought branding is what colors you use and your logo, and maybe but that's kind of where my knowledge of it ended. Believe it or not, I actually studied graphic design for a year at uni. a long time ago.
There you go. I didn't know that about you either.
Right?
There you go.
I am. I was telling someone about this the other day. I have started 3 degrees and finished none of them, but I've got 5 diplomas. So I'm definitely better with short-term, quick outcome stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, one of the things I did was graphic design. It was a complete failure, to be perfectly honest. But now that I'm into, Canva, and like Canva is my playground, but we'll come back to that in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for startups and even for more established businesses who are maybe moving online from a clinical or in-person situation to a more online model, I think that is one of the biggest lessons. And every time I talk to someone about this, I keep kind of saying, oh, I wish I knew you when I first started out, or, oh, I wish I knew this when I first started my business. And even though I'm a big advocate for it was part of the process, I needed to learn it. Like the logo I've got now is so outdated and so not me anymore. Because, I started in a place where I thought I was going in one direction and I ended up going in a completely different direction, which is exactly perfect and what needed to happen. But it really is that whole education about the difference between brand and branding, and that your brand isn't just your logo and your colors. It's like how you talk, and it's what your website looks like, and it's how you show up online and in Facebook groups.
It's everything. It's so much. It's like everything.
It's everything.
How you dress, like so much. Yeah. Especially like most of in fact, all the people I deal with, they're all, they're solo women. So, it's very much about that personal branding. Like it's what you wear, how you present yourself, how you talk, what you write. It's like every single touch point, anything that wherever you see yourself online or your brand online, that's where your audience interacts with you. Whatever they see of you, that's your brand. And it all adds up to a complete picture. And I just want to throw in there that, if you're not branding yourself, it's a great quote I found from somewhere. If you're not branding yourself, rest assured that others are doing it for you. So if you can control what you're putting out there, then, you're way ahead. You're actually, putting together something, presenting something that's much more cohesive than if you just chuck stuff around. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's just like
I do. That's actually a really cool lesson, a really cool sort of thing to live by. And obviously we are the recovering perfectionists, so we are definitely prone to getting that right and not having not losing control over that sort of thing. So I think that's really good. But letting go of control, but there definitely needs to be an element of you knowing what you're talking about to give other people the confidence to talk about you how you want to be talked about, not to have a guess. It's a really interesting conversation, one that I completely love having and hearing people's different points of view about things as simple as your title. And I know I personally agonized over this for months, and I still do kind of, in terms of like, what do I call myself? And everyone said, don't worry about what you call yourself, it's fine, you don't need a title. And some people say just make it really boring and generic so everyone knows what you're talking about. And then there's the other camp that says make it something interesting that provokes questions. And I'm not really sure where I sit on it, and at any time I change it. And pretty much every time I introduce myself, I've got a different tagline or a different title, but I'm much clearer on my core message and on like what I want people to get from working with me. So something that I've when I teach obviously content strategy, and the first part of that is your core message, whether that comes first or it comes after you've nailed exactly what your content is and what you want people to understand. But when I first started looking at my core message, I think I had about 5 core messages, and it was pretty blasé, and they were probably like a short essay each, and very inarticulate and unsuspicious. I just want everyone to know that they can have their cake and eat it too, and I want everyone to know that they don't have to pick it. I want everyone to know like all these kind of massive things.
Yeah, sure. We are all so guilty of that. And it's the thing, because as a teacher, like I just want everybody to know everything. I've got so much knowledge. I just want to give all of it to everybody. And so I have no like when you do that, there's so much broadness. It's like it's so unfocused, and just everything gets lost then. But back to people who are starting up. The thing is, yes, please try and control what you put out in the world. But in terms of having to go professional and spend lots of money, don't do that. When you're starting out, and like you were saying, like we've all changed directions as our businesses have grown, and you know, we've all got clearer on who we're serving and what we want to put out in the world. Our branding, like our whole brand, has changed as well. And so when you're starting out, you've got a reasonable idea of what direction you want to go. And as for the branding, just choose something and run with it. Yeah. It's like, just pick some colours. There's plenty of free places to go and find a pre-made colour palette. Go and choose a couple of fonts. Just run with it. And especially when you're starting, and then like as you get clearer, then you'll go, oh, that actually doesn't feel right anymore, and it's time to change. Karen, this is another one of my favourite quotes, is from Karen Gunton, who said, "It's not a tattoo. It's not stuck on. It's not cast in concrete. It's quite changeable. So just grab something and run with it." Because the thing with branding is about trying to create something recognisable and consistently recognisable, so that people know that it's exactly you whenever they see anything. Like, everybody probably knows that I love flowers by now, and lots of colour. So everything I put out has got that feel to it. So just pick something to go with it.
So is consistency better than getting it right?
I think to start off with, I think consistency is much better. You're trying to build up recognition. As I said, you got to that point where then you really feel like it's not right, then you can change. But the thing is also that when you just pick something and run with it, the tighter your parameters, the more inventive you get with those things. And it's like having a blank canvas. If you're confronted with a blank canvas and you can have anything you like, people do one of two things. They go crazy and make a mess, or else they stick to something really timid and conservative. And that is so true across any kind of field of creativity. And so if you want to do, get with your branding, just choose something and stick with it, and you have those parameters, and that will make you be inventive with it. And also it'll create that consistency, because you're building into that know, like, trust thing.
Exactly.
And it's like a pair of jeans. Like if you buy a new pair of jeans and you put them on and you think, hey, they're all right, they kind of fit okay, but it's not until you've worn them for 3 months, 6 months, a year, you just go, they are my favorite jeans and I love them to bits. So it's just like, pick something and go with it.
And by which stage they're a slightly different shape and a slightly different colour and a slightly different tightness than I couldn't agree more. And I did exactly what you said. So I had my logo designed by a friend, and I loved it. It was the right colours and everything at the time. And then I literally picked a colour palette. So one of my favourite things that I'm always showing people is that, I don't know, it's called 100 colour combinations from Canva or something like that. And I picked one of those. So I had my 5 colours, believe it or not. It's down to like 2 now, so we're good. But it was 5 and they were everywhere. And like you said, it just gave me some boundaries, so I wasn't also agonising every time I went to design something.
That's exactly it too. You waste a lot of time. You waste so much time if you go into Canva and which font will I choose today? Oh my God, what colour do I want? And then you spend hours on the colour wheel. It's a pretty awful colour pick, I must say. You can't tweak it very easily. Like it's pretty imprecise is what I'm getting at there. You shifted a millimetre and you change things completely. You can put your hex codes in. So if you have your hex codes, you can put them in Canva. So that's a good thing. And
Cool. All right, so let's talk about Canva just quickly, because I do love talking about Canva, and I know you do as well. Canva, like I said, I literally studied graphic design for, I think it might have only been a 6-month unit that I did specifically on graphic design, but it was about 10 years ago, and it was back in the day of CS, whatever it was called, Creative Suite something. My computer was so antique that it wouldn't take it, so I ended up having to do all my graphic design by hand, which was a disaster in and of itself. And I've always sort of thought of myself as quite artsy. I did really well at art in school, and I did lots of life drawing, and I was totally into all the creative stuff. And then I went to uni for the first one, and did psychology, and kind of went completely right brain or whatever. And then since then, I've kind of forgotten to call myself creative. I've always been like, oh no, I'm not very creative, because I wasn't drawing, I wasn't painting like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and that's a whole other conversation about creativity. But Canva has been like, when I first started using it, I was like, oh my God, what is this? This is so scary. I keep getting it wrong. There's too many options, and there's too much this, and oh my God, my head was exploding, and I couldn't make it do what I wanted to do really easily.
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly, it did start to sort of come easily, and I did understand. I did know how to make it work for me and to play with it. And now it's one of my favorite things to do. In fact, I kind of call it like my playtime. So in the evenings, if my husband's watching TV or something, I'll be sitting there, and I'm often playing on Canva, because it's just easy. I can whip things up quite simply, but it's just really fun to actually have that creative outlet. And it's free. Well, I'm on the paid version now because I literally use it so much, but the free version is just fantastic. So any tips for people who either haven't used it before, or are new to using it, or aren't using it to the best of its capacity?
Gosh, again, where do I start? Look, honestly, I'm still on the free version. I must say, I also have Photoshop on my computer, so I'm probably cheating a little bit there. But there are always free alternatives. But in terms of look, there's still things I use Canva for. It's just got the best snap tools, the best alignment tools. Really, it makes it so easy to get a great design, a good-looking, simple design really quickly. Okay, so in terms of graphic design, there's my three favourite tips are: watch your alignment. Make sure everything's either centre aligned, right aligned, or left aligned. Don't mix them up in a single graphic, because otherwise it just makes your eyes skip around so much, and that's really hard. People, you want to create flow in the work, so in your graphic. So the easiest way to create flow is to really be careful about the alignment. The second thing is using lots of negative space. That's another thing, which is just lots of space. So you've got some points of focus within your graphic, but don't have too much in there, because again, that makes your eyes too. People don't have time or the energy to sit there and read several paragraphs of text that's stuck on a single graphic. Yeah. Think of it like a poster. People are scrolling past all the time, so give it lots of space to breathe, and make it, a select phrase or something pop out, and people will stop and read if they need to know more. And hierarchy, make sure the important things stand out, and make sure the less important things, more subdued or subtle in the background. So like your URL, have it on there for sure, but make it kind of sit at the back, and have the main point that you want to get across big and bold. And that's as far as in terms of graphic design. In terms of Canva, have a play. I just find it so intuitive. Like, once you actually get in there and have a little play around, I just find it very intuitive. And I think people just probably scare themselves too much, and they start off using the templates. And I actually don't find the templates very helpful, I must say. I don't know. But the thing is, I'm coming from my perspective, and I've got, X number of years behind me in design. So I always want to change stuff all the time. So I'd rather have my own ideas and just start from scratch. It's funny, one of the things that I teach in my CAN class all the time that people go, oh wow, I never knew that, was this, if with nothing selected on the screen, just press the letter T and it'll drop in a text box. And people go, wow, that's amazing. And I'm just going, that's just so basic. It's just, I don't know. It's just.
So there's shortcuts in Canva. I didn't even know about that.
Didn't you?
No.
Really? Oh, wow. Another really simple thing to do is if you've got some 2 or more things that you want to resize at the same time, you can group them together. So you can just click on one, hold your shift key down and click on the next one, and then you will have, there's a dot on the bottom right hand corner, and just drag that out and you will resize everything all at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know. I've got lots of tips and tricks.
So many tips.
I don't know. There's so much stuff. Just get in there and have a play.
Yeah, exactly. You and I definitely agree on that it's definitely the thing that you've just kind of got to practice out and work things out. And there's been so many times in Canva and everything, but especially in Canva, that I've accidentally pressed a button and something's happened and I've been like, ooh, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that. So, even like undo, there's lots of different tricks. We don't need to get into
cool Control stuff, Z, really please. Easy. Control Z. Yes. It's nothing. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And so in terms of design and consistent branding and that sort of thing, obviously we've talked about the colours and the fonts and keeping it consistent.
Yes, that's another thing in Canva. In the free version of Canva, you can have up to 3 of your own brand colours. If you go onto the main screen where it's got all the different templates there, at the bottom on the left-hand side, there is your brand, and you click on that and it'll give you the option to add in 3 of your brand colours. I guarantee that will save you hours of time. You don't have to type any hex codes in.
Sure does. It's very cool. And on the paid one, you can also have that with fonts.
Yep.
Upload your own fonts and all.
And you can have lots of different, you can have several different brands. If you're working, you might have 2 or 3 different companies that you're working with or for. Yeah. And, you can have brand palettes for all of them.
Very cool. It's very, very cool. I do love those hacks. So just to wrap it up, what else, like in terms of consistency with your branding, apart from graphics, and I know you do a lot of work with websites and that sort of thing, is there, can you give us maybe, I don't know, your top 3 takeaways on how to maintain that consistent kind of brand online presence across everything?
Oh, my number 1 tip is once you have your colours and fonts sorted, put them together on a 1-page document, print it out and stick it next to your computer. Now that will have your hex codes on it. It will have your font names on it and examples of your font. It can have your image style, because that's very much part of how you'll present yourself to, your image style. So your photographs are always going to be bright and naturally lit, or are they going to be soft and misty, or do you have a particular color kind of pitch to them, or like any kind of overlay or something. So that kind of stuff about your image style. And the thing that ties everything together is your keywords. So if you have branding keywords, this is about what you want to project out into the world, how you want to be perceived. So for instance, obviously my branding keywords include colourful, okay? So colourful and natural and down to earth, and that all that stuff, they're what you want to present to the world. So put them on your, write out those keywords and put them onto your brand style guide. And as I said, print it out and stick it next to your computer. And every time you go and find another image that you want to make a graphic with in Canva or wherever, you can check against your keywords and go, if you're in StockSnap or or Pixabay or whatever it is, and you go, does that image fit with these keywords? And you'll go, no, it doesn't actually, and you can keep searching. Having your keywords there is really, really handy, and it also gives you an idea of how to write when you're writing stuff. Like, if my keywords include something like natural and down to earth, I'm not going to write my about page in academic speak, am I?
I hope not. No.
Oh, I hope not too. So see, that's going to give you a really good, clues on how to present yourself at every turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that. And I did some similar work with Emma Brownson, or she's just been married, Emma Tatajar. And she also talked about the same sort of thing. So understanding what your keywords were for two kind of slightly separate and slightly like very much overlapped sets. So how I want my clients to feel and what you'll get from working with me.
Yeah.
You know, Emma Weiss and I talked about this very, very, very early. And I think that's a really big, it's almost a missed opportunity, because I don't think that we sort of talk about it enough. We talk about purpose and our values and our beliefs, and then it turns into our services and our core message and that sort of thing. But those key words are some serious anchoring for our whole business. So if you know that you want all of your clients to walk away or from every touch point, and that's not just if they're working with you, but every time that they see a photo or see an image of you on social media, check your website, see something on Instagram, whatever, if you want them to feel a certain way after each of those interactions, whether they're passive or active, it's such an important thing to have as a bit of a filter and a bit of an overlay. They're kind of like the spokes that hold the umbrella of your business together. You want them
that's
to
beautiful.
feel like I want my clients to feel like, I can do this, and I want them to feel supported, and I want them to feel organized. So they work with me, they'll feel organized, but that's also one of the things. They work with me and they'll see that I am organized, and that means that they will have a flowy, easy interaction, like all those sorts of things. And I think that's a really, really cool key point. So I'm going to just pull that one out for sure, because I think that's really cool. I'm just going to go and write them on my pin board in front of me, like they're everywhere else, but I haven't actually got them visually in front of me where I sit at my desk. So
now, the other thing about that is, if you feel like your branding is cohesive, you will be much more inclined to share yourself everywhere. If you're feeling like your brand's messy and disorganized, well, you're not going to shout. You're not going to shout to the rooftops, come and look at my website, are you? You're just going to be really quiet and timid and mousy about it, are you? Because you're not proud of it. So if you have something that you are proud of, you share it.
So just a quick side note before we wrap up. I know you do some website stuff, and I think this is a really big thing that you've just touched on, because how many times do we hear, like you say, what's your website? And they'll go, I don't really want to tell you because I've got website shame or whatever.
Website shame.
My thing with that, like, it doesn't even have to be 100% completely all the things that you are and stand for and what you do and blah, 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 blah. It's actually almost like that less is more. So if you've got stuff on your website that no longer is relevant, serves your purpose, informs your tribe, just delete it. You don't even have to necessarily replace it with an equal value of word count or anything. If it's not relevant anymore, take it off. If it's a little bit ugly, that's fine. Like, we can deal with that as long as it's consistent voice and brand. It doesn't, it doesn't need to be the flashiest, most amazing website for us to connect with you. But if there's stuff on there that you see on the website, and one thing that I find really disconcerting is when you see a photo on someone's website, like a portrait of the person, and then you talk to them or you meet them in real life and they look really different. That for me is like their number one. Because you go, I wasn't expecting you to look like that, and even though it's only a looks thing, I just feel like it's a little bit misleading sometimes, and I would rather know what someone actually looks like than not. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, it's just
I do, but again, that comes down to consistency. It's like, if you're going to have a professional, photo of you in a suit, and you never wear suits when you're dealing with people, what's the go with that anyway? That's not being consistent. That's not being true to your brand.
Or even like a photo from 10 years ago. There's a total digression, as I always do, but there's in my area, there's all those big billboards for, like, on the bus shelters for a real estate agent. And we have met this person several times when we were looking at buying a house. And after that, all of these photos started popping up. I'm like, oh my gosh, those photos would literally be 20 years old.
Wow.
And like, they've kind of been touched up or whatever, and they're in black and white, so you can't tell that it was maybe they're 10 years old, but they just, there was such a disconnect. And I thought, if I was going to buy a house, that's like a pretty big thing. I want to have, even more.
You want to trust a real estate agent.
You know what I mean? And it was such a disconnection of going, like, it made me think that to this person that looks and impressions were more important than the outcome or than the real life thing. And I thought, God, if that's what, like, you know, and this happened over the course of several months where I was it just always stuck in my head for some reason. But I just thought, if I want to buy a house from someone who is all smoke and mirrors over here and completely different in real life, what's she telling me to sell this house to me, and what's actually going on? Do you know what I mean?
It was just I know exactly what you mean.
Like, oh God. And so that's an extreme version, obviously, but it's a thing. And, you know, I think it's a real shame, but I love this sort of work that you're doing. I love this message that consistency and authenticity and actually being yourself and all of that sort of thing is probably one of the hardest things to learn and to get okay with. But once you're there, it makes life so much easier.
It sure does. You don't have to pretend.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome, Julie. Thank you so much. It was awesome chatting with you.
So much fun.
Canva and totally geek out on apps all day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But how can people find more information about you and your Canva courses and all of that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I've actually just finished another round of the Canva 5-day. It's a free 5-day Canva challenge. But if you hop onto my website and sign up to my mailing list, you'll be informed on the next time it's on, or go over to my Facebook page. So you can find me at tractorgirl.com.au. That's all. Tractorgirl is all one word. Or you can find me on Facebook at tractorgirl.viz.biz.
Lovely. And we'll have all of those links in show notes as well.
Yeah.
And awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. It was really cool having a little chat.
It's very good fun. Thank you so much.
Consistency. Awesome. I'll speak to you again really soon.
Okay. Thanks, Claire. Bye.
And that is absolutely it, my lovely. So I hope you've really enjoyed the episode. It was great fun recording that one, as it is with all of them. If you'd like to connect, I'd love to stay in touch with you. I have a beautiful Facebook group community at bit.ly/The Recovering Perfectionist Crew with all capital T, R, P and C. I have a massive goal this year to get 50,000 downloads on my podcast, and I've got a YouTube show as well. So I'd love for you to help me out if you can by either subscribing to the podcast on iTunes. So if you want to go over and do that now, that would be awesome. If you have a couple of favourite episodes, or if there's one favourite episode that you've really enjoyed, I would love you to share that with anyone who you think would get as much out of it as you have as well. And while you're in iTunes, if you can jump in and give it a review, that would be amazing. iTunes definitely helps out podcasts that have got some good ratings and reviews and some really interactive listeners. So I would really appreciate your help with getting to my goal of 50,000 in 2017. The show is also available over on YouTube. The links are always in the show notes, so you can head over there. So it's The Recovering Perfectionist on YouTube. There's a channel for that as well. So jump in and leave your comments. You can watch all of the episodes in video. So if you want to see what we look like and our crazy hand gestures and facial expressions and all of that sort of thing, absolutely jump in. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel show as well, and then you'll be kept up to date when there's some new episodes that come in there. So yeah, love your support. And if you want to shoot me an email, it's hello@clairebarton.com.au. Always happy to receive your emails and open up a conversation. All right, big love. I'll chat with you soon. Bye.